The role of pH balance in biological systems. Why pH balance matters more than it seems. pH sounds like a simple chemistry measurement at first. It tells whether something is acidic, neutral, or basic. But in biological systems, pH is much more than a number on a scale. It affects how proteins fold, how enzymes work, and how cells communicate. It also affects how organs maintain stable internal conditions. Living systems depend on chemistry, staying within very narrow limits. A small pH change that seems minor on paper can become significant inside the body. Cells are extremely sensitive to their chemical environment. What pH actually measures? pH measures the concentration of hydrogen ions in a solution. A lower pH means more hydrogen ions and more acidity. A higher pH means fewer hydrogen ions and more basic conditions. The scale usually runs from 0 to 14, with 7 considered neutral. That sounds straightforward, but the pH scale is low. Each 1 unit change represents a 10-fold difference in hydrogen ion concentration. If a change from pH 7 to pH 6 looks small visually, how big is it chemically? It is actually much larger than it appears. Why enzymes depend on the right pH? Enzymes are proteins that speed up chemical reactions in living organisms. They have specific shapes that allow them to bind to certain molecules and catalyze reactions. pH affects enzyme shape because hydrogen ions can change the charges and interactions within the protein. If the pH moves too far from an enzyme's ideal range, the enzyme may work poorly or lose its shape completely. Different enzymes function best in different environments. Pepsin works well in the acidic stomach. Many enzymes in the small intestine work better in more neutral or slightly basic conditions. The stomach shows why pH can be specialized. The stomach is a clear example of how biological systems use pH intentionally. Stomach acid has a very low pH, which helps break down food and activate digestive enzymes. This acidic environment also helps defend against microbes. But the same acidity would damage other parts of the body if it were not controlled. The body does not need one single pH everywhere. Why blood pH must stay extremely stable. Human blood normally stays slightly basic, around 7.35 to 7.45. That range is narrow for a reason. If blood becomes too acidic or too basic, proteins, enzymes, and cellular activity can be affected. The body uses buffers, breathing, and kidney function to help keep blood pH stable. This is one of those biological systems that feels invisible. How buffers help maintain balance. Buffers are chemical systems that resist sudden changes in pH. They can absorb or release hydrogen ions. In the body, the bicarbonate buffer system is especially important for maintaining blood pH. If acid levels rise, bicarbonate helps neutralize excess hydrogen ions. Biological stability is not passive. The body is constantly adjusting chemistry in small ways to prevent dangerous shifts. The role of breathing in pH regulation. Breathing helps regulate pH because carbon dioxide affects acidity in the blood. When carbon dioxide builds up, blood can become more acidic. When breathing increases, the body removes more carbon dioxide, which reduces acidity. This explains why respiration is connected not only to oxygen supply, but also to acid-base balance. Why the kidneys are important too. The kidneys help regulate pH more slowly than the lungs, but they are extremely important for long-term balance. They can remove excess acid through urine and help conserve or produce bicarbonate when needed. pH regulation depends on multiple organ systems working together. The lungs respond quickly, while the kidneys provide more sustained regulation. This coordination helps keep the internal environment stable, a situation that makes pH easier to understand. After intense exercise, muscles produce more acidic byproducts. Breathing increases partly to help manage the chemical changes happening inside. When someone vomits repeatedly, stomach acid is lost. These examples show that pH is not just a classroom topic. It connects directly to how the body responds to stress, activity, and illness. Why cells need their own pH conditions. Different parts of cells also maintain different pH levels. Lysosomes, for example, are acidic compartments that help break down materials inside the cell. Life depends on chemical separation and control. How pH affects protein structure. Proteins rely on precise shapes to function properly. pH can affect the electrical charges of amino acids. If the pH changes too much, the protein may denature, meaning it loses its functional shape. Structure and function are closely connected. Why microorganisms care about pHs, bacteria, fungi, and other microorganisms also have preferred pH ranges. This matters in ecosystems, food preservation, digestion, and disease. The pH of soil affects which organisms and plants can grow well. Why homeostasis is the bigger idea? pH balance is part of homeostasis, which is the body's ability to maintain stable internal conditions. Temperature, glucose levels, hydration, oxygen, and pH all have to be regulated continuously. The body is not static. It is constantly responding to internal and external changes. pH regulation is one example of how life depends on balance. Final thoughts. The role of pH balance in biological systems is to maintain the chemical conditions needed for life to function properly. pH affects enzymes, proteins, digestion, blood chemistry, cellular compartments, microorganisms, and organ systems. The body uses buffers, breathing, kidneys, and specialized environments to keep pH within workable ranges. Once you understand how sensitive biological systems are to chemical conditions, pH stops feeling like a basic chemistry fact and starts looking like one of the hidden foundations of life. Thanks for watching.